Hello Neverwinter. Here we are with the Shackle Breaker build, as showcased in the recent How to DPS Master Shackles of Divinity video. Before we go any further, if I can just request, if you are a regular visitor here and you have not yet subscribed, please just tap that subscribe button. Thank you very much. So, important thing to know about the Master Shackles of Divinity. There are certain elements which will have a oversized contribution to your damage. So stuff like what companion you are running and what artifact you are running. For example, if you're running the crystal, you will do a lot more damage than people who are not running the crystal. If you are unfortunate enough to be put onto the Portobello companion, you'll do practically no damage via your companion. If you're putting something like a Scorpion or the Tutor here, you'll have a better result from that. That's going to be anywhere between 10 to 20% of overall damage. So the scoreboards can be a bit misleading, because obviously the person who already has the highest damage tends to be given the crystal, and if they also then have one of the highest damaging companions, then they're just going to race ahead on that DPS board, and there's not much you can do about that. So with all that in mind, I've tried to stick to non-master gear for this build, so that it's more accessible, more easily accessible to use to farm it in the first place, basically. One notable exception is the boots, which are there is an advanced version of them though, so you'll just have to tweak a couple of things to make those work in here. So they have recently fixed a bug that those boots had as well, which was making them trigger on 3.5% of your HP and damage, which just makes the stacks a little bit less reliable. Yeah, as you can see, everything should be at or around cap. When all of the additional bonuses are considered. Yeah, so this is a optimized trial build, so it's going to be relying on 10-man team, one person running a tutor, one person running a portobello, one person running a flapjack, one person running a blue fire eye, one person running an Etrian. And at that point, most caps should be hit. We're slightly overcapped on the accuracy rating, and about 3% under the actual cap on that, but such is life. Given the nature of Master Shackles of Divinity, we have gone for a boosted defense rating over awareness. If you watch the DPS video, or the tank video actually, it's probably a bit clearer. This boss does not have the automatic combat advantage that all the other bosses in the game have, so defense is a lot more useful, I suppose. Or maybe just awareness is a lot less useful. Gear wise, still using this combat advantage hat. Yeah, I mean, some of the new gear from the master version of this dungeon is going to be preferable to the gear that I'm running here, but it's also very rare, so yeah, so that's the hat. We're sticking with this scintillate set. I did experiment a bit with a detectorist set, but losing this intelligence, yeah, like 9 points of intelligence is quite significant because the intelligence value as a magic damage dealing character, it's quite a significant amount of intelligence. Basically affects the magical damage boost, which is basically the damage multiplier um, for magical based characters. And obviously the detectorist set does not have any intelligence on it at all, never mind missing some other quite useful stats. I suppose you could try the Mythalar, but Mythalar yeah, that's why. So the Mythalar's magnitude damage does not actually scale with your item level. That's why that is not currently particularly useful for anything, if I recall correctly. Anyway, this was a very lucky find from the advanced version of the dungeon. Sanguine Seal. Really good ratings on it, especially with how difficult critical severity is to come by these days. And a nice little damage boost. If you weren't, or you don't have that, or you can't run that, probably try and find another stat ring. Or another damage ring. Well, probably just something else with critical severity, given the nature of the build. Yeah, you'd probably have to slot in something like this. AP ring from Demon Web Pits. I think this is the most accuracy you can get out of a single ring. And that action point boost is actually quite nice as well. Obviously, if I get the crit severity ring from Master, I'll slot that in here and then swap a few things around. But I'll address that if and when I actually get one of those damn rings. Accuracy combat advantage chest piece. Warlocks tend to struggle a bit for combat advantage and in fact accuracy, so still a good chest for now. Now I've got these in here mostly for the stats and the item level, because as far as I'm aware, I don't think this bonus is actually working, the Berserking Might.
I've never seen a strategy like that work before.
And there's not that many better options really. Those action point ones would be quite nice, but it's not like we struggle particularly to get our AP back in time for the articles. If we're going for more of an AP build, you could look at that perhaps, but yeah, these will do for now. We're using the bismuth set for the crit severity. I mean, and it is mostly almost entirely for the crit severity, so the perfect mark of Lothair would also fulfill that. But you would be kind of, well, not wasting, I suppose, but you'd be overcapped on crit strike. Other worthy mentions are the Void Touched. I see some people running the new set. 4.5% damage. Pretty good. I mean, might be worth a try if you can find a crit severity elsewhere. Yeah, so if I get one of those crit severings, I might swap these in. And then try and find accuracy elsewhere. Alright, that's other half of the Scintillat set. For those who don't know, this gives you 7.5% accuracy on top of the intelligence, which is another reason why it's very useful, and also that recharge speed, quite nice.
I've never seen a strategy like that work before.
Okay, so this is a yeah, this so these also came from Master, these two. So this is the initial damage shirt. I don't actually know how often this procs in, but
Did you stretch before we started?
there isn't actually any cooldown on it, so I'm going to assume it procs in regularly.
Is
That
that
does
your best
7%
attempt?
additional damage in
Let's try
Thay.
it again.
It's these pants that are the real game changer though. 10% combat advantage. Just for dealing damage. These pants are crazy OP. So having this set on and these pants, that's 12% combat advantage. Absolutely mind-boggling. Um, so the artifacts in here are mainly in here for item level. Kind of also in here for stats, but
Others you learn from actions.
you know, the additional item level kind of causes the need for the extra stats, so it's a bit of a swings and roundabout situation to begin with. I prefer running the Beacon of Meteor Swarm, personally. It allows me to stay out at range, but obviously you're going to have to run whatever the group wants you
I've
to
never
run,
seen a
and
strategy like
again, if
that.
you're running the Crystal, you get a nice damage boost. 15% damage on all your attacks. So if you
Is that your best
if you
attempt?
see someone who looks like
Let's
they're
try
running a
it
worse
again.
build than you and not doing as well as you, just check whether they're running the Crystal, because sometimes it might be hiding a few sins in the build, shall we say. Now these are the boots.
Things you learn from books.
These boots are crazy.
Others you learn from
21%
actions.
stats. And good stats as well. Power, critical strike, critical severity. They can be quite difficult to keep up.
Did you stretch before we started?
But some classes have a worse time than others. Like, it's very difficult for the rogues to keep it up. Not so difficult for the warlocks. I think rangers have an at will that can keep it procced, so they've got no issues. There is a advanced version of them as well, though. Wherever they are. Yeah, there you go. Now that is 6% less stats across the board. So 2% less power, 2% less crit strike severity. So if you had to slot those in instead of these mythic ones, you'd have to tweak a bit, but
That was quite good.
there is scope in the build for tweaking, I think. Powers wise, okay. So I actually went through
I've never
several
seen a
different
strategy
variations
like
and
that
versions
work
and
before.
tests of this before ending up at the Shackle Breaker build. Um, so all top here seems to be the
Is that
best
your best attempt? Let's try it again.
current setup for a Warlock, in single target at least. Now, obviously the Soul Puppet currently does a great deal of damage.
Some things you learn from books.
and we've basically removed the thing that was making it being consistently generated. So we've now got to put a bit more thought into how we actually create the soul puppet.
Was that your best?
So we put our all-consuming curse on our at will. This gives us our combat advantage proc as it says there.
Some things you learn from books.
And now the curse consume effect of Hadar's grasp is to summon a soul puppet. Soul puppet lasts for 20 seconds. The cooldown for this is 13 seconds. That's without us doing any resets or anything. So we can effectively, provided we make sure that we at will or use Killing Flames, which also applies curse, just before we trigger Hadar's grasp, we can keep that soul puppet up, no problem. It just might be a bit of a adjustment for some people if they've been playing a different playstyle. We're using Dark Helix as our primary at will, but also Hellish Rebuke without No Pity, No Mercy, as that will just keep ticking over, generating sparks. And I mean, you can at will cancel these still. I'll show you. So obviously the trick when you're at will cancelling is to cancel at a point where the damage is applied, and then you're just shortcutting the animation. You got to be particularly careful with the Dark Helix because it is quite easy to cancel the damage completely. With the Dark Helix, you need that little ball to fire out. Yeah, so primary Dark Helix, secondary Hellish Rebuke. Pop off the occasional Hellish Rebuke, it'll get the dot going, it'll help keep those soul sparks up. And encounters, Vampiric Embrace. In that trial, Vampiric Embrace can keep you alive when your healers are struggling, if you're just in an awkward situation. No reason not to run it. It does a solid amount of damage, and it's a ranged attack. So yeah, Vampiric Embrace, Hadar's Grasp, and of course Killing Flames, which is our most powerful single target. Daily wise, you're going to be using Tyrannical Curse. This is incredibly useful in this dungeon, not least because if you've got a situation where you've got mobs around, this will not only do damage to the target, it'll radiate that damage out to all the little trash mobs, and you'll be able to kill those without really having to break step in what you're doing. So particularly useful when you're downstairs, when all those mobs start swarming you. Very useful upstairs. If the balls come close enough to the boss, then you can basically kill them by attacking the boss. It can just save a hell of a lot of awkwardness. If you've got a Warlock in the run, the mobs become a lot easier, basically. Now, Dark Press. This is basically because now, with Double Scorch applied, our R1 is actually probably our most powerful move. So if we can have our Soul Puppet's up very consistently, got massively high spark generation, and then we just Soul Scorch. The quicker those sparks come back, the quicker we can do more damage. Soul Scorch, you see. So you want to be Soul Scorching as often as possible, really. Obviously, time it so that it's useful against your other encounters and what else is going on, but it is a primary damage source now, Soul Scorch. It's not just a reset. I'll be careful with this Soul Scorch as well, because you can cancel it out if you're not careful. So yeah, once you sort of get used to that whole flow, your damage can tick up quite significantly. Boon wise, I haven't actually changed anything here from the last build. Wow, yeah, I've got a couple more boon points, so I just put those into recharge speed. Yeah, not much else to put them into really that would be useful. Reminds me, forgot to look at the enchantments. Enchantment wise, gone for full defense. As I mentioned earlier, awareness has got very little to no usefulness in this dungeon, but defense is very useful. And a notable change is that we switched out the Devil's Precision for a Sword Coast Tactician. Obviously, the new campaign provides 5 of these, I think, for free, and they last 8 hours. Yeah, hopefully there's going to be more sources of these, otherwise this build will run out in approximately... How many of those have I got? 8 of them, so approximately 48 hours. Is that right? 8 times 8, 8 times 8. 64 hours? Yeah. So we got about 64 hours with this build. Oh wait, no, those last 10 hours. Oh, 80 hours. Much better. Yeah, so if you don't have those and you want them, you're going to have to do the campaign to get them. Obviously the Rage of Flames in there as well. Lightning Flash. Now I was using movement speed in here, but I might switch this over now to something else. Movement speed was very useful when we were initially learning to do the dungeon. Obviously not all that important for a Warlock with our Shadow Slip. But yeah, I might switch that out, have a little experiment if I get a chance to get in a DPS in again. Mostly tanking recently. So another key element of this build is that we're basically running 4 damage companions. The ones you'd expect. Minsk, Neverwinter Night, Bateri. Now, I've gone for the Vicious Direwolf here, although I've seen some people swearing by the Celestial line. I don't find the Celestial line to be as consistent as the Vicious Direwolf. So, if you happen to have both, feel free to experiment. I'm getting better results with the Vicious Direwolf though. Still using old Hot No. Yeah, Hot No companion gear. Obviously just slotting whatever you need to balance out your stats. And I'm using Potent Precision over... Where is it? Using Potent Precision over Keen Eyes because Keen Eyes seems to have a longer downtime. Now, I'm not 100% sure about it, but to my mind and to my eyes, Potent Precision seem to have a greater uptime. Feel free to do your own experimentation. I've got the tutor summoned currently. the way that we're currently set up to run this dungeon, there's several companions that a DPS may be asked to run which are not really considered optimal. So that might be the Portobello, the Dritz, the Flapjack is not too bad actually, the Spine Devil, Black Death Scorpion, or Tutor, as I've got equipped here, or sometimes the Cyclops War Drummer as well. The two hardest hitting, oh, and also the Etrian. I don't think I've got that on this character though. So the hardest hitting are actually the Black Death Scorpion, the Tutor, and the Etrian. But, you know, whoever's hosting is going to choose, so just going to have to suck it up and deal with it, I'm afraid. And onto our mounts. So, run the Golden Warhorse. It has the smoothest animation. You don't get animation locked. Very handy when you're doing things. Now I put Providence in here. I haven't actually fully tested Providence versus Ferocity, but many people are swearing by Providence versus Ferocity. So Providence comes from the Stalwart Golden Line. No, Swift Golden Line when it's a mount. This has the additional benefit of not just granting you a bit of damage, but you also get a heal, which if you've been in Master and you've seen those dots coming on, is just insanely useful. And if you've got multiple DPS with it equipped, you've got multiple Providence procs. It's just lifesaver, basically. I've been saying for many years, Providence is one of the most underrated equip powers that you can have. It is ridiculously powerful for survivability. Okay, so I know the Enchanter's Hex is barely proccing on anything, but it is proccing on Hadar's Grasp. So do what you will with the information. You could switch this out for another Tacticians, Cavalries, Artificers, whatever. I'm not like recommending to run the Enchanter's Hex, but it does seem to take up the damage a little bit. And there's not really anything else it's not like there's many better things to put in there, basically. If we slot in another Tacticians or another Cavalries, then it kind of throws off the rotation we're going to do. Up to you guys, play around with it. Enchanter seems to do alright for me. Another notable one here, if you do find yourself running something like a Portobello, the Warlord's motivation is going to be pretty much useless because, you know, 20% of nothing, 20% of fuck all is still fuck all, right? Or 12% even. The damage boost that the Warlord's motivation gives is dependent upon the initial damage they have to begin with. So if you find yourself one of those companions, you might want to switch this out for something more useful. Not that there is that many more useful things, unfortunately. At the beginning, when learning, people were slotting in the which one was it? Guardian Spirit, yeah. That can just help you survive a bit, through the hypos, especially in phase 7. But if you've got decent, high enough defense, then this becomes less necessary. But something to think about. Yeah, so that is pretty much Shackle Breaker build, version 1. As and when I get Celestial Gear, I will update it and put something out when I do. I've got a tank build that is full debuff, full support that I might put out. The stats are absolutely horrible on it though, but it doesn't seem to suffer at all in survivability, so I don't know. I might put that one out next. Anyway, thank you for watching. If you liked the video, please leave a like. If you like a lot of videos, please subscribe, and I will see you in the next one.